Welcome back to the Valicites podcast, the show for accountants, FP&A leaders, controllers, and CFOs who want to stay ahead in a world driven by AI and financial transformation. I'm your host, Albert Ramos. Today's guest is a powerhouse in global finance leadership. Stefan Boehmer, Executive Vice President and CFO of Körber Supply Chain. I'm sure you've heard of them. With more than 25 years of international experience across Germany, Canada, and the US, Stefan has led financial transformation across divisions at Siemens and now at Körber. And we're so excited as he's jumping on the show. He's also helping shape the future of finance, operations, and sustainable supply chains. If you didn't know, he's a Lean Six Sigma black belt, an advisor at Graphio.ai, and a recognized voice on the integration of emotional intelligence, traditional intelligence, including IQ, and the technology quotient, which we'll chat about. He's very big and a huge voice around the future of finance work. At Körber, he's leading initiatives across AI, digital transformation, and ESG initiatives while managing hundreds of millions in transformation projects, M&A execution, and supply chain optimization. We're thrilled to have Stefan here to talk about how Körber is embedding AI across finance and operations, his thoughts on balancing automation with sustainability, and what Texas-based and really all CFOs across the country should be watching for with tariffs and compliance, which we'll kick it off there first. But first, I want to welcome Stefan. Stefan, thank you so much for coming on the Valicites podcast. So great to chat with you again.
Thank you very much, Albert. I'm excited to be here, and I'm looking forward to our discussion.
Me as well. And I know the audience out there has been waiting to hear. We've been watching your posts. You know, many of us get the opportunity to see you in person, but for those that do not, this is going to be a treat. And we're going to get right into it. It's a hot topic. People are waiting for it. Tariffs, and you're very vocal about this, as well as very engaged on LinkedIn about it. And so let's jump right in. Tariffs, what's going on out there? How is it impacting markets? And what role, in your opinion, does tariffs and trade dynamics currently play in any type of financial scenario building, planning, and supply chain management?
It's a challenge. We don't like uncertainty,
right?
And it's very hard to predict what will happen. If we have tariffs for a long time, we can account for it, we can plan for it. Right now, with the weekly changes, it's a challenge. It's not just a cost challenge, it's also a challenge from a supply point of view.
Right.
Because we see shortages coming up based on suppliers trying to avoid tariffs, changing their portfolio. And we also see price increases on our supplier side, depending how much tier 2, tier 3 suppliers they have, where they're impacted by tariffs.
And we're seeing this across the board. And I know throughout the week, I mean, we were just chatting behind stage. I was in some meetings and calls, and it's all about tariffs and just the shock, or less of a shock, maybe more so the uncertainty. And people are just trying to figure out, what should I do? I'm chatting with people in retail, manufacturing, right? All things supply chain. What's your advice for some of the financial leaders out there that will be listening to this just shortly post this recording? And tariffs will be and will continue to be somewhat of a uncertainty here for probably the next couple months, next couple quarters, if not for the rest of the year. Any advice you're giving to some of your colleagues?
I mean, short term, we are reactive. When the tariffs were announced, especially from China, we pushed out deliveries. Now that we have the 90-day break, we try to pull in deliveries to leverage that window of opportunity. We need to understand Incoterms. We need to understand the HSD codes. We need to understand what we can push to suppliers and what we can also forward to our customers. So we have to add clauses to contracts to protect us on both sides. We have to have some kind of index references in case of steel or aluminium, because we see increase in steel prices in the US due to the tariffs on steel imports. And if you look at last year, the US is not able to produce all the steel we need domestically. So they need to import steel. when President Trump issued the 30% tariff, 25% tariff on steel, we saw the price of domestic steel pretty much going up by 25%,
Right.
despite the fact that 70% is locally produced.
So that was going to be my next question because I'm seeing that as well. And as you and your team are diligent and thorough with your vendor agreements and even new partnerships, and I'm seeing it, I'm seeing prices increase that have me scratching my head. I'm like, wait a second, this is locally domestic. Why is the price increasing when it has no type of international impact or any impact from tariffs? Are you seeing that? And how thorough is your team being with some of that?
I mean, we have the clear tariffs for our tier one suppliers, but it's difficult if our suppliers pay tariffs on tier two, tier three, because then we get general price increases. And I believe some of our suppliers leverage the situation to ask for price increases in general.
I love that. And what's your advice? I mean, and I know in a lot of cases this price is being flown over to the customer, right? At the end of the day, to protect some of the flow through and bottom line. But any other advice that some of the financial leaders can do as they're sitting in a boardroom or with the ELT team? Any other plan A or B's before saying, yep, this needs to flow into our pricing strategy and hit the customer, the end user?
I mean, short-term reactive, we focus on Incoterms, on the classification of the imports. We make sure we have disclaimers in the contracts. We link contracts to the steel index when we have significant amount of steel included. It's short-term because at some point the customer will not accept it either.
Right.
There will be a discussion about the price increases and what is feasible in the market. So in the mid to long term, we have to evaluate what it makes sense to source locally, because we cannot afford the risk to the supply chain for the next 3 to 4 years.
Yeah, it's such a great point in sourcing locally, and it sounds like that's the plan all along, right? At least here domestically in the U.S. And
It
I'm curious.
sounds easier than it is. I mean, some parts are easy,
Mhm.
but if you have specialized parts, it's more difficult to source locally. And then you also have parts where third-party countries have a significant price
Right.
advantage, and it would lead to a significant price increase if we source locally. So it's not there's no perfect answer. It's just a lot of
Yeah.
detailed work and a lot of juggling the balls and trying to find out what is the least risk and the least impact to the company.
Right. And I know there's a lot of people out there battling like you are in this and getting the most up to date news as you can, right? Every day, every hour. One of the things that you just made me think about too is are we putting the cart, at least here domestically, putting the cart before the horse? Because to your point, we can always source locally. However, if the specialized product is not made here, it's almost how long do you wait for some type of plan? I mean, it doesn't come overnight, right? And that's where I've been scratching my head as well. I understand the intent to make sure the whole quote unquote made in America or made by Americans is the big push. It's not here yet. It's not built yet. The plant's not here. The parts aren't here, right? The labor, potentially
Labor,
the demand
yeah,
is
yes,
there, the labor's there, but not
yeah.
the other variables. And so there is this gap of a waiting game. Well, how
Mhm.
long do we go through this? How long do we wait? And what are the risks?
Right. And even labor, we don't have unlimited labor. I mean, the unemployment rate is at a little bit above 4%.
Right,
And to manufacture everything domestically, we need significant increase in labor.
right.
We don't have that.
That's a good point. So a lot of different variables, and I know everyone is asking questions, but I appreciate you sharing your advice, especially in the short term and what we can do now. However, also having your plan in place, different scenarios like scenario A, B, C on if this happens, what do we do? And is that something I'd imagine you all are doing at Körber? Is just you have your scenarios laid out on if X happens, here's how we respond. Is that what you're doing with your team?
We do. I mean, we also are responsible for Canada, so we also evaluate what we source from Canada to the US or what we still ship from the US to Canada. And that are topics we need to look at and evaluate. For example, Canada can order from Europe and they avoid any tariffs. But if Europe ships it to us and we produce it and we finish the product, then there might be a tariff on top of it. So there's a lot of when, if, what, and it's the uncertainty situation that makes it difficult.
It does. It does. I don't envy anyone that's trying to build any type of financial model right now with any of these variables that impact their business, because it is tough. It's tough to predict. So I think multiple different scenarios and scenario planning is probably the right route to go so that you're prepared and not getting caught off guard. But I appreciate your advice. I was excited to chat with you about this, and for those that are listening, I'd highly recommend that you follow Stefan on LinkedIn. I know, Stefan, you've been posting quite a lot about it, and I really appreciate it. I mean, I use it as news, to be quite honest. I appreciate you for sharing. It's great. My pleasure. Well, you've had a long, very impressive journey. For those that follow you or will get to know you, you'll learn that as well, across Siemens, but now Körber, which, man, there's so much buzz with Körber. I'm a huge fan. Körber supply chain. How's your view of finance leadership evolved over the last decade throughout your journey?
I believe it became much more focused on empathy and much more focused on the technology. There was a time when we operated in SAP and that was it. In the meantime, there are so many tools and options to supplement SAP. It makes it interesting. It makes it more challenging to decide what path to take. And I believe the overall leadership moved much more towards the employee to show more empathy, to understand the employee, to promote the employee. That's something what is not common for many finance people.
Yeah, it's so true. And I had an opportunity to see you speak at the World Finance Forum. We got to chat, and I've also read your newsletter and your article, and specific to this, right? The modern finance leader, or the future of finance work, and this blend of IQ, EQ, and TQ. Again, saw it in your recent newsletter. How do you do? You do it so well. How do you cultivate that balance within your leadership team and your finance team?
For me personally, it's a challenge. I'm very operational, strategic oriented, and the people skills I have to work on, and I have to daily remind me to leverage it.
That surprises me. So for those that have met Stefan, you're pulling a fast one on us, because I've met you, we've chatted, and you have strong EQ. I mean, it's you. I mean, you great communication skills. We've had a great time. No, that's surprising. That's
It,
surprising.
it's something I had to learn, and it's something I continuously have to remember. And for me, people drain my energy. So that's why I need weekends, sometimes days off to
I
recover.
see.
I don't generate energy with people around me.
Like, I know a lot of us can relate out there as you talk about that, right? In any type of leadership role, especially the CFO role, the amount of people that are tapping on you, relying on you, depending on you, pinging you, right? We had some just now behind the scenes, right? It's never ending, and it can be draining. And it's so good to know that you take the opportunity, as busy as you are and as big as Körber is, and the amount of buzz that it has, that you're actually taking some time to pause and recharge. And I appreciate the vulnerability. And again, so surprising, because I've seen you with people I've watched. I'm very observant, and in our interactions, you're just such a great example of the modern finance leader, specific to EQ, IQ, and then TQ. And let's talk about the tech side. What are you seeing as the biggest strategic shifts across the finance space when it comes to embedding AI in the operational workflows?
I mean, first we have to understand and manage our data. I think the past data was not seen as the most important topic. We had it somehow in SAP. To leverage RPA and AI, data clarity, data structure is key. We also need to understand that we have employees that are afraid of the future, and we need to take them
Mm,
along on the journey.
so
I talk
important.
UTD or SMU, and the new generation comes with AI knowledge. In our company, we have to make sure that our employees are educated, and are taken along on that journey we are on. What do I see on the technical side? I think right now it's almost a gold rush about AI. Lots of startups, lots of technology discussions. In the end, we need to look at what problem we want to solve. We are not doesn't help if we try to sell newest AI technology unless we solve a challenge for us, for our customers, unless we bring value.
Yeah.
And honestly, I believe most of the startups will fail because most startups start with the technology.
Mm.
And the ones that will survive will focus on the customer, will bring that value added.
So good. The value prop and the value you provide, but first asking the right questions around what are the pain points that we need to solve for, not a product and then figuring out where it can fit and solve. It's finding the pain points first and then building to solve for that problem. I love that. And, Körber is known for its innovation, right? For anyone that knows and follows, and I highly recommend that you do and do some research. They're very known for their supply chain innovation. So, Stefan, how's AI currently integrated across finance and even logistics, the logistics strategy at Körber?
I mean, on the customer side, we use it since many years. Internally, we have started 4 years ago, first with RPA. And RPA for me is a stupid AI solution. It's an automation without thinking. It only gets you so far.
Right.
On the AI side, I realized I'm not the expert to develop AI tools. So I'm a friend of leveraging third party. And we will implement for our whole BA an AI-based tool for supplier invoices.
Excellent.
I expect a lot of reduction of manual work with coding and approving of invoices because the tool hopefully learns that the type of invoices are repetitive and can apply and learn the coding. I
That's
also
excellent.
expect more AI on the forecasting side. I believe our division again will move to SAP Analytical Cloud. SAP, sorry. Uh, yes, SAP Analytical Cloud, SAC, sorry. And that we will do company wide. It makes sense because right now we have homegrown systems, we have a
Mhm.
lot of interfaces, and we have added a separate layer on top for visualization of data. And if we
Excellent.
can combine it all in one tool, I expect quite some productivity.
Well, definitely productivity. And how is that, or at least how do you foresee that impacting your team? Is it you have your existing team, and maybe we speak hypothetically, right? Let's think of a organization, maybe not corporate, but an organization that starts to look into AI or is leaning into AI, and now they're outfitting the accounting side, invoicing, ARAP, and now even the strategic finance side, or maybe your FP&A front. Is this augmenting the team member? Are we repositioning them? Are they responsible for managing the AI? Are they getting replaced? I don't know if that we're even at that point where we can replace humans yet. I'm not sure. I don't know. That's kind of been the the tension point, the argument.
I mean, I liked what we discussed last Thursday at the World Finance Forum. Finance gets it done independently how many hours and independently how manual.
Hmm.
I think the way we
Yeah.
operate today is not sustainable when people work consistently 10 hours, 12 hours a day.
Right.
And I believe that needs to go back to more normal working hours. I believe AI will
Mm.
augment our employees. And Körber especially, we want to grow. We want to double
Hmm.
our business in the next 4 years. So there will always be more work than we can handle. From that point of view, I don't expect that we will reduce back office or finance employees, but we don't need to increase it as much with our
Hmm.
automation compared without.
That's such a good point. It's not about decreasing your headcount. It's the productivity allows for increased revenues or growth, right? In this case, we're saying, for example, doubling the growth, but allowing the intelligence to augment the productivity, right? Your team member productivity, and I love that. And you always do this. You always start with the team member experiences. Let's actually have a normal set of hours so that us and we love this stuff, right? And we could spend hours, but is that sustainable and is that even healthy for a good team member culture? And you just bring up such a good point. I have my thoughts rolling now too as I'm helping other organizations, again, not augmenting, but mental health, right? And physical health and leisure and rest and re-energizing, right? Recalibrating. It's so good. You brought up the World Finance Forum, and it's such a great event. And shout outs to the production team there, the World Finance Forum team. They're outstanding. They're international, and then they're coming back, I think, to Chicago, New York. But I loved when you were on stage and you were chatting about sustainability and energy efficiency. And for those that follow you on LinkedIn, specifically here in Texas too, you're very vocal about it. So can you walk us through and just give us kind of a summary of, and what I'll do too is I'll put the recording link in the comments once we release this. Can you walk us through just a summary of some of your high-level talking points that you speak to and speaking to finance leaders across the country, but definitely in Texas, specific to sustainability?
Sure. Körber is owned by a foundation, and our goal is to improve the life of current and future generations. And as a German company, ESG is the foundation of our business. It's not just Europe. If you look into the US, California is very strong on the sustainability side. New York is following. And I also see in Texas we are moving in that direction. Less from the regulations, more from the expectations of the future workforce. If you talk with students today, sustainability is also at the forefront of their mind, of their expectation. So I believe we have to move in that direction. We have to look at our consumption of electricity, gas. We have to be smarter how we deal with the resources we have available.
Yeah. That's so good. And I remember very clearly, and I just wanted to jump in because I just love what you were talking about. And I threw a question up there on stage was, well, I think for more organizations to follow suit on ESG initiatives, what the money must follow or vice versa. And I went directly to cost savings and I loved it. I mean, you're the expert. You said, Albert, it's not cost savings here. Number one, it's the right thing to do, right? And to protect our climate. But number two, there's vendors out there's other organizations and partners that want to partner with those that are making this difference. Körber, a great example. Do you remember that moment? I wrote that down. I saved it. I was like, that was so good. I felt challenged. And I'm like, I was thinking about it wrong is how do we save money through sustainability efforts? Like, wait a second, that's not the primary or even secondary approach. It's number one, are you making an impact in your community, a positive impact? And for you and for the team, not only across the country internationally, but here in Texas, but two, right? It's a business growth strategy as well as you have other partners out there that want to make a difference too. And they want to partner with those that are mission driven like you and Körber. Thoughts on that one?
Absolutely. I mean, for Körber, we always look at the ecosystem. We want to provide the solution to the customer. And big customers look at ESG, look at sustainability, and want their suppliers to also contribute. And that's where we can play a very good role. And yeah.
It's so good. Well, we talked about some AI initiatives or even AI readiness. And again, Körber's been at the forefront just with its innovation. But how do you balance this? Because I see people struggling with this tension point of wanting to strike and get ahead on this digital transformation with speed. But then they don't realize, wait a second, we need to slow down. Are we even ready? Is our organization ready for these AI initiatives? Do we even know what we're solving for? How have you seen the best approach on balancing that on organization readiness and then speed to action?
It's a challenge. I mean, I believe there's still some misunderstanding. Automation in the past was focused on production. AI will replace tasks on the back office side, driven by finance, HR, and less production focused. We need to be ready for that, but it comes back to educating our people and leveraging experts in the field.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I always recommend leverage consultants, start somebody who knows the market, who knows what's possible, and also look into third parties with proven solutions.
Yeah.
I mean, I can't afford to test something what will fail.
Right. That's so interesting, and I saw a recent study, and I forget if it was MIT or Stanford, but the statistics were really interesting. It was saying that now 70% of some of the organizations within the industry they were sampling are actually dabbling into AI. We're testing, or I think the word they used was experimenting. But then when you ask them, well, what's the success rate, and what are you actually implementing to the end user, typically their customer? It was like very low double digits. I mean, it was very low. And I'm like, wow. So we're experimenting. Maybe this is just because, through time we'll get better, we'll understand it better and then execute it.
I mean, you have certain fields where you see more success.
Mhm.
I believe on the supplier invoices, there's more success. There's already several companies out there with proven tools. If you look into call center, you see AI more and more replacing call centers. So I think
Right.
that these are two areas. If you follow Microsoft, they believe that in 2, 3 years, 75% of all coding will be done by AI.
Wow.
So there are trends you can pick up on, and then you have to figure out what does it mean for us? What can we
Yeah. For
leverage?
those,
Yeah.
Yeah, for those out there, right? And as we start thinking about AI and finance, right? There's different artificial intelligence, right? Machine learning, and you heard Stefan and I chat about some differences earlier, and even the difference between automation and AI. But as you start to lift up the hood to AI, I mean, you think about agents. Well, let me start with GPTs are still very powerful. GPT assistants that you can
Mhm.
configure, still human in the loop. Now you get into agents where you start to get a little bit more away from human in the loop as you're training the model, but it's getting better and better. It's amazing.
Mhm.
And then I think I mentioned Gen AI or generative AI. And so for those out there, especially those in finance that want to continue to learn this, number one, make sure security at all times, right? We're dealing with sensitive information. I think that has been the tension point on adoption, but there are, to Stefan's point, whether it's you're building it internally and you have different firewalls or different security layers, or you have third-party vendors that do this for their living, do this as their profession, right? So security. I did want to switch gears into the measurable ROI. How do you all at Körber measure, as you've embedded AI on the front end and are looking into the FP&A strategic side, how do you measure, you mentioned productivity gains earlier, how do you measure that? What are some of the benchmarks that maybe some of the finance leaders out there listening can start with, maybe a couple?
I mean, certain AI programs will improve productivity, and I can measure it in hours saved. How many employee hours, work hours do I save per month?
I love that.
There are other topics which will address and reduce risk or increase compliance. There I can't really calculate the savings. I just can document I have less risk or I'm more compliant with the regulations. And that goes maybe towards audit, maybe towards ESG regulations, because in the end we have to stay up to speed. And it also goes towards cybersecurity, because with AI, the risk of cybersecurity increases. And at some point, we need to leverage AI to reduce that risk, to mitigate it.
Right. That's so good. And I was thinking about what you were saying earlier around just the predictive analytics and forecasting. And you mentioned even tapping into third-party vendors. But what is Körber looking to do, or at least what are some of the pain points you found as you know the technology's out there and we can make decisions even faster with some of these insights and recommendations or digital dashboards, just the rising expectations to your point of data-driven decision making. What are you seeing there at Körber, or even as you partner up with other colleagues of yours?
We have a challenge at Körber because we have acquired many companies in the past 10 years. And so we have a very unaligned, misaligned data field.
Mm-hmm.
Every company has her own tools and processes, And within that, we also don't have really the clean data. So that's one of the major challenges for us. And how we try to mitigate that is with company-wide evolutions, like with the SAP Cloud, because we need to somehow streamline and mitigate the risk that everybody does something on their own.
Right.
We then need to supplement it with local tools. I mean, there's certainly the benefit of connecting AI tools to the big SAP or to the other big data centers.
Right.
And that's where we can locally add value.
So good.
It,
And I'm looking
it's not,
forward to, oh, go ahead.
yeah, no, it's not just agentic AI, what you mentioned. I mean, in the meantime, we talk about physical AI, and we talk about much more things. The technology is evolving very fast. And as a company, we haven't even adopted the first step yet.
And I think a lot of people are there, and I think it's okay. What I love that I'm hearing from World Finance Forum, some of the other events that I've been to, and I've seen some of yours that you've been to as well, and those that have been already. We've released some episodes. We're all going and we're listening, and we're chatting. We're starting to see the finance field, finance leader. I call it the modern finance leader, leaning in. So that's very exciting, right? This adoption gap or this tension point of wanting to adopt or not, I think is fizzling out. But now teach our team on how to use it so that there isn't this misalignment or, at times, data that could be at risk because we have a team member who decides to go rogue and use it elsewhere, right? And upload, which do not do that, please. If you're listening, do not do that because it will be public and we don't want that. So, and protect your business and your data. But it's so interesting, and I'm looking forward to sharing what we're doing at Valisites because I saw that very same pain point, especially using the technology on the FP&A front. Every time I lift up the hood to a business, I realize there is just, I think a year or two ago, the technology wasn't there, right? There was a far gap between what it spit out and the iterations required and the prompting, et cetera, and even the data cleanup that it needed. And it's getting much better. Now, is it foolproof? No. And we'll say that at Valisites all day. We still have a human in the loop when it comes to cash flow forecasting. And the other thing that I'm excited about is how we can outfit controllers, FP&A executives, and the CFO with, well, I have my P&L, I have my balance sheet and even cash flow statement, or even my cash flow forecast. The amount of time that it takes to scrub through, get it right, you're going back and forth with your analysts and maybe a controller or what have you, and then the recommendations that you're providing to, let's say, the board or your COO or CEO or what have you, we're able to get to quicker now, which is so exciting with data visualization as well as insights and the recommendations, which I love because I've been there where it's like, okay, great. We've closed the month. We have our financial package or executive package. Okay, now what? So what? Now what do we do? It's great. I love the numbers. I could read them. What do we do now? And so that's what I saw as a potential void, an entire ecosystem for that. So I can't wait to show you more about that. Well, I'm curious, what's been one of your most successful AI initiatives in finance or maybe even personally so far? And what do you think, if you can just unravel maybe the ingredients of what made it successful? Like why did it work? Was it something small? Was it low-hanging fruit? Was it, something, more of the pain point back to that point? What was that for you?
I mean, on the RPA side, we automated our invoicing. So we generate with a robot our spare parts invoices and upload it in the customer portals. And we do that with an accuracy of 96%. For me, that's very impressive. And we were able to free up one headcount by doing that.
Wow.
On the AI side, I really love our internal Microsoft Copilot because I avoid the risk that I upload information to the public. And secondly, the Copilot has access to everything I have access to. So I can use it to search or to summarize, find information. And for me, that's very beneficial.
I love that. I just did a recent talk at actually it was called the Talk AI Summit, sponsored by Signals. Highly recommend that people check them out too. But it was just about that, just practical use cases. I'm a huge fan. I'm going to get in so much trouble because there's so many Google fans out there and OpenAI. I'm a huge fan of Microsoft Copilot, the enterprise version, right? To your point, some of the versions in OpenAI, Gemini, oh, don't get me started with DeepSeek, but some other versions where it's still public. You're training the model, yes, and it's public information that you're putting out there. So you really want to make sure you can talk to the reps and you can read about their options. But when you get into the enterprise version, in addition to being within your own server and firewall, you have full protection. And what you're saying here, Stefan, too, is what I love about Microsoft. And I mean, they're an entire ecosystem. So you think of Excel, Microsoft 365, Word doc, all of those, your co-pilot, your assistant, your Microsoft agent and assistant is there with you, and it's embedded within your stuff, so you can query it as you're working on things. Even in PowerPoint, although I'm a big Gamma guy, but let's just say you're using PowerPoint, you can do it there as well. So for those that didn't know, take a look, try it out Copilot. I don't get any royalties or anything like that. I just enjoy it. It's good.
I mean, in the end, it's key to have your enterprise solution, whether it's ChatGPT, Gemini, or Copilot. Our company picked Copilot, and the integration into Microsoft Office makes it very convenient for us.
Yeah. Well, I think, I promised someone out there, and they were very excited. They are excited to hear what you have to say and listen to this episode. I mean, you're creating a lot of buzz out there, sir, especially in Texas. And one of the things, right, as we see some consolidation out there, we're also seeing some divestiture. And you have a lot of experience here. And so I promised I'd ask this question. You've led some large projects, including, a large divestiture throughout your journey. How'd you get there? How do you work through that? How'd you align your finance strategy during that divestiture transition?
I mean, the short term, it was the main goal to keep everything up and running. We had to establish our own payroll, our own systems. We had to establish our own interfaces. And short term, the goal was only make it work. And then in the second step, you optimize. It's always a learning curve because every project is different. I mean, I was also on a due diligence team many years ago where we acquired a company. It's always a very interesting experience. And yeah, every project is different.
Well, there you have it. And I know we'll get into how people can connect with you, but I think those questions are starting to come up more. We're middle of the year, so a lot more of those conversations from, again, consolidation and how to divest or spin things off. It's becoming definitely loud and clear. Well, I want to go back to AI. And one thing that you talk a lot about, right? And you're very vulnerable and outspoken about, hey, you're great here. I'm an expert there. And they're still learning as well. But you talk a lot about AI literacy. So how do you build AI literacy across your organization without, and here's the key, right? There's some out there that from a technical aspect, and I'm one of them, by the way, I don't come from a tech background. And when I first jumped into this, it's like, whoa, like the coding and now vibe coding, but all the how to build GPTs and agents. I mean, it was way over my head. I need to make sure I let those that were teaching me to slow down. How do you balance that and even build that type of culture of AI literacy without overwhelming those, especially on your finance team, that are just not the tech savvy?
I mean, we used 3 years ago consultants for our literacy journey.
Oh,
And we
wow.
had 15 people where we educated and trained them over 6 to 7 months.
Wow, that's amazing.
I can't afford that for everybody on my finance team. So here it's more a playful approach by showing them what you can do.
I love that.
I mean, when you talk about ChatGPT, you can create figures, you can create the blister packages you see everywhere. I'm not posting about it, but I encourage my team to play around with it on a playful way to understand what the tool can bring.
Yeah.
And I think once you start playing with it, you apply it more to your work as well. In the end, I truly believe that employees with AI knowledge will outperform employees without. And so I have to encourage and take my employees along to generate that AI knowledge. I also
So
have
good.
offered in the past Google classes. There are free classes from Harvard, Stanford as well. I mean, whatever works, everybody's different. Everybody has a different approach how to learn. And
Wow.
so
This
you met my
is
team.
so I
You met
met
my
you.
team.
I
Yeah.
did. I did. Your team is awesome. And I could just tell they had this thirst, and you put them in an environment where they were going to be challenged, stimulated. I mean, I chatted with them a couple times now. And while you left the room, I let them know. I just, one, I got a sense you are all about team member culture. And this is for the finance leaders out there. You please listen in, right? We too need to create a great team member experience, a great team member culture. And we chatted a lot about attraction power, meaning if you want to attract the best talent, you do things that Stefan is doing. If you heard about it, from gamification to being playful with this, experimenting with it, but you create a culture where that's not wrong. Now, we still protect the business, still protect our confidential information, but if you want to learn, especially if you're, restricted with a budget, there's different ways, as you heard now, where you can get your team to learn these things and upskill them because it's important. And for those that listen to me, I'm really big on our finance leaders, right? And maybe it's not the whole Microsoft, 75% will be replaced or anything like that, but I do think we're going to be repositioned to do things differently, right? From communication skills to managing these AI workflows. So
Mhm.
upskilling is so important. Stefan, you're a great example. You're clearly paving the way. And you've been doing this since 3 years ago. You're way ahead. You're way ahead. That's great. Well, no, you have an amazing team, and I know they love working with you and for you. And it's the culture that you create. And and everything that we chatted about today. And in many cases, you're talking about your team members first, your team member experience, and then you move on to the customer and the business side of things, which you don't typically get from financial leaders. So it's very refreshing to hear.
Thank you,
My pleasure. I'd love to chat about a little bit about Texas. Um, how can supply chain heavy businesses in Texas, going back to what we first kicked off with, how can they prepare for some of the evolving facing and more than likely here we'll be facing for the rest of the year? It's Texas specifically, because I know you're very passionate about Texas. How can we prepare for this? What do we do?
It's a challenge. I mean, we already have today shortage in certain blue collar jobs, electrician, welding, and that will only get worse because it takes time to educate new employees, to train new employees. And if I look at the boom we have with building data centers, with building
Right.
semiconductor factories, that's all requires the same trades. And when I talk here with local suppliers for these trades, they go into the schools, they align with the Chamber of Commerce to educate and train as many people as possible. It's a challenge because we get more and more students going to your universities
Mm-hmm.
and less into trade schools.
Hmm.
And in the end, we need these trades to develop to harvest our boom that we are seeing here.
Yeah, there. It almost seems like the traditional, like collegiate, the university path needs to be somewhat of a hybrid with some of this upskilling, right? This almost what you get at a trade school. It's important. So I'm hoping that this technology and even just the evolution of the marketplace allows for that or influences that. And I'm excited for some of these challenges. I mean, you spoke about them, many of them, while on stage at the World Finance Forum. We didn't get to it earlier, but around power consumption. We do have these data centers coming into, right. What is it called? Not why am I thinking Stargate? What was it called? The big initiative, the big initiative that's out in Abilene, Texas, and there's so much going on in Dallas and Austin, and one of these days down here, Stefan, Houston, we'll figure it out. We have people moving here. We'll figure out the AI side, but I'm excited about these challenges, from power consumption to fuel to the supply chain and infrastructure, to back to your point of labor. There's a lot going on, and it's a good thing that we're getting so much attention and investment here in Texas. However, there's still a lot of things we need to iron out as a community, and for us leaders in the community, we need to be chatting about these things very, very quickly, because this is happening fast, to your point.
I mean, we need to figure out power consumption for AI.
Yeah.
I saw reports that in 4 or 5 years, AI will use 95% of all electricity available, and that's not sustainable.
Mm-hmm.
Texas has its own grid, as many of you know, and we have not really improved the grid in the last decade.
Right.
So while we are proud of having almost 40% renewable energy, it's a pretty steady business and slow to increase demand. With a focus on also data centers, Texas has the second most data centers after West Virginia.
Wow.
I don't know how we will survive here without changing the power consumption.
Yeah. Or do you think it's the power source? Is that something that needs to be discussed? Is it the power source, or is it truly the infrastructure and consumption piece?
I mean, you see that Microsoft already reactivated power sources,
Mm-hmm.
which we took out of service. Long Island, I believe, is one. It doesn't matter what power source, it takes too
Mm-hmm.
long to ramp it up. We have to be creative,
Mm-hmm.
either innovate new power sources, smaller reactors, faster setup, or really figure out how we can run AI with less power consumption.
Yeah, and for those that don't follow this too much, do some research. It's a very interesting. It's an issue. But it's a very interesting issue. Not just usage, but cooling. So if
Mhm.
you look into those GPUs and you think about not just the usage, but when you're powering them up and as they're working, there's heat, right? And I know there's a lot of people actually in that space too. Is how do you take that heat and recycle and reuse it, which is very exciting. It reminds me a lot about oil and gas and drilling and all that. But look into it for those that are interested and maybe even solving this opportunity, back to solving the pain point. Here's the pain point. Look into it, because they're definitely an issue, especially out here in Texas. I'm looking forward to seeing who solves it if it's not one of these, large, big AI players, which I don't think that's their game. They're going to need to find someone who can solve this for them.
Yeah,
So,
I believe they really understand the challenge, and they also understand they have to figure out a way forward because it's not sustainable what we're doing.
right. Yeah. This is an exciting revolution, but to your point, it right now, if you're just thinking about the power side of things, there is an issue. There is a the marginal curve, or at least what we can see in the future, is actually unknown until we fix this piece. And I don't think a lot of people talk about it. I'm glad you do, because we need to solve for it. I'd do us all a disservice if I didn't talk. I don't like talking about it too much, only in the sense of I don't want it to be a barrier, because there's already solves for. We talk about risk and security. What are you doing though when it comes to the risk side of things at Körber, especially as you are scaling digitally from data or even regulation, any type of AI organization initiatives? Like, how do you manage those risks, and what are some of the big ones for you on the financial end, or even in partnership with your IT team or your CIO, what have you, the leader there in that space? What are some of the top items that you want to protect for, so that your company Körber is taken care of?
I mean, we are lucky. We have a really good IT setup, a shared service setup, and we get all the support there for cybersecurity and so on.
Excellent.
Because cybersecurity is probably the biggest risk. If I read articles about what China wants to steal next, I think that will only increase. They will apply AI agents to steal data. We have to apply AI agents to mitigate that risk.
Yeah.
And that will not become less, that will continuously grow.
I'm curious to see how much larger the investment is to ensure that all of us are fully protected. Every organization is fully protected, especially on the cyber security front. Because the more I read, and the easier it becomes to build some of these agents, right?
Mhm.
And agents working with agents, and these agents coming up with and deciding for itself. And I don't know if you can say can you say itself? I don't know, for it. Yeah, for itself. Um, we need to invest the dollars in order to protect the organization, to outpace the intelligence, the bad actor intelligence. I remember having a conversation with a cybersecurity expert, and this was a big hot topic. Is we're at a point currently, for those that know it or not, where these bad agents are outpacing us good cybersecurity, and so you have to lift up the hood. You have to have AI governance. To Stefan's point, when you're leaning into this technology, because it is an issue, another pain point. Believe it or not, we're going to stack it up. But this is a big one, and I'm so glad that you speak about this quite a bit, especially from the finance front. Leakage, right? Maybe not the funnest thing to talk about, but protecting the business, risk management, leakage, compliance. It's so important. So don't forget about that in your AI governance plan on the finance side. That's great. Well, last question, Stefan, and I know we're running over time just a little bit, so I really appreciate you. For the finance leaders listening, what's one piece of advice you'd give them for leading through this complexity in the AI era?
Two pieces of advice. First, align with colleagues. For me, the CFO Leadership Council is very beneficial because I get first-hand feedback. I can discuss ideas. I see what others are doing. And I realize we all cook with water to some degree. And we struggle with the same challenges. And we try different approaches. Some work better than others.
Mm-hmm.
The other topic is start.
Mm.
I mean, when I started here, I got questions. What it cost me to implement AI? It's the wrong question. I mean, start wherever you have the biggest pain points, optimize it, look for low-hanging fruit. Don't start with the most complex topic and go along. I think that helps you with a budget. It helps you with a buy-in from the people. They have to see progress. They have to see that we move forward.
That's so good. Such great advice. And, on my end, when I summarize things, because the main questions I get are this: can I do it while being secure? And the answer is yes. Will I get an ROI? And Stefan, you gave a couple of examples of how you're already seeing at Körber the productivity gains, some of the efficiencies, et cetera, right? And then the last thing is, can I trust it? And my answer to that is yes, with iteration, right? Maybe not the original output, but you continue to iterate. I still think human in the loop is fine. We're augmenting the workforce in our financial teams. So when I say trust, foolproof, no. And that's with any tool, right? Including AI.
Foolproof is the wrong assumption. The question is it better than the current human solution?
Oh,
And
so good.
yes, that makes sense, because if I have 96% accuracy, that's much better than when I do it manually. I don't need to reach 100%. The cost and the effort to go to 100% is extreme.
Well, I'll be vulnerable. You look at my cash flow forecast from just a year ago to what they look now with the intelligence, that variance went like this. I'm like, oh my goodness, where did I get that wrong? So that's so good. Well, Stefan, thank you so much for spending time with me and joining us all on the Valicites podcast. And I appreciate you, sir, from your experience and your perspective and just the commitment to responsible AI, and how you're embedding it in strategic finance and, more importantly, the doing the right thing, your impact in the community with your ESG initiatives. I think this is exactly what the modern finance leaders need to hear right now. And so thank you. If people wanted to connect with you or learn more about you and Körber, where can they do that?
LinkedIn is the most easy approach. I'm on LinkedIn. Links to my company is there. And otherwise, you can simply Google Körber.
Excellent. Well, Stefan, thank you so much. We really appreciate you joining today, and I can't wait for people to listen in.
Thank you so much, Albert. I appreciate our discussion, and I look forward to our next meeting.
My pleasure. Well, everyone, thank you. Thanks for listening. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time. Thank you.